This week, we update the U.S. planting pace for soybeans and the near-term weather forecast.
We also look to South America, where we reveal weather forecasts, flooding troubles for harvest and logistics, as well as export trends.
Crop progress for the weekend was released Tuesday as offices were closed in honor of Memorial Day. Soybean planting advanced to 68% nationally, 5% above the 5-year average. Ohio farmers were aggressive soybean planters, putting 26% of the crop in the ground, rising 13% above the 5-year average. Minnesota and South Dakota moved up 21 points. Illinois added 14 percentage points and at 72% complete is 7% above the 5-year average. Iowa and Nebraska are the only two states running behind their 5-year pace by 4 percentage points and 1 point respectively. Markets are currently down as we tape here on Wednesday in response to planting progress and the weather forecast. Most soybean areas in the U.S. are expected to stay dry today, followed by a period of showers with rainfall varying from a ½ inch to 1.5 inches next week. Our weather maps, courtesy of T-Storm Weather, forecast light rain affecting the western half of soybeans today and tomorrow, most likely resulting in 3/4 to 1.5 inches of rain. Some rain affects the eastern half of corn and soybeans Saturday through Sunday, with 1.25 to 2.5 inches of rain forecast over hard red wheat areas in Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. A new pattern is expected to start over the following week with cooler temperatures and drier than normal weather.
Now let's turn our attention to South America, where soybean harvest has been progressing both in Brazil and Argentina. This slide shows soybean harvest progress and condition in Argentina. The chart on the left showed that nearly 80% of the soybean has been harvested in Argentina as of last week. This pace is similar to what Argentina had harvested last year, 22-23, and the difference here is that Argentina only had harvested 25 million metric tons of soybeans in 22-23 versus the expected 50 million metric tons this year. Crop conditions are nearly good this year, 25% rated as good and excellent versus 5% only last year. Production estimates between the USDA and local estimates are very close, nearly to 50 million metric tons of soybeans Argentina production in 22-23. Now turning to Brazil, where soybean harvest has been nearly complete. You're going to see that there are some delays in the northeast part of Brazil, in Maranhão State, the Mato Piba region, and also in the southernmost state in Brazil, Rio Grande do Sul, where they had problems with the flood. 98% of soybeans were harvested in Brazil as of May 26, a little bit behind last year's pace, 99.2%. In Rio Grande do Sul, only 90% had been harvested versus 96% last year. The flood problem in Rio Grande do Sul has already led some review of estimates for both the USDA and CONAB in May, and you're going to probably see more reviews in the coming months. Right now, the difference, the spread between CONAB and USDA estimates is 6.3 million metric tons and has decreased from last year, but is still relatively high. The difference in production estimates are going to also reflect exports from Brazil this year in 22-23. This chart here shows us how exports have been evolving in Brazil for the current crop year. Brazil has exported nearly 51.5 million metric tons of soybeans so far, which is nearly half of what the USDA expects. Brazil has close to 4 million metric tons in lineups for the month of May, and we'll keep seeing more exports coming from Brazil in the coming years. Now let's take a look at the forecast weather for Brazil. As always, this map is a courtesy of T-Storm Weather. As the dry season has started in Brazil, most of the central-west part of Brazil is very dry, intensity dry in most states in Brazil, but soybean harvest has been complete in most of the Mato Grosso state, Goiás state, Minas Gerais, so there is no problem for soybean harvest in those states right now. As mentioned before, delays are happening in the southernmost state in Brazil and in the northeast part of the country. One other point we have to keep in mind is that as we approach the summer here in the northern hemisphere, in the southern hemisphere, Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay are approaching winter. So you're going to see lower temperatures going forward in those countries. In this map here, you see that maximum temperatures are already decreasing all over South America, especially in the southern part of the continent. But in Brazil, the northern part of Brazil, central part of Brazil, temperatures have actually becoming a little bit warmer than average. When you check the low temperatures in those countries, you're going to see that there is some frost, probably likely in Argentina, a little bit of flurries already expected in high elevations in Brazil, which may actually cause a little bit of trouble to those producers who still have to harvest their soybeans in Rio Grande do Sul. And not only for those producers, but a lot of people are still in shelters waiting for the weather to get better to go back to their homes in Rio Grande do Sul. After several weeks of intense rain in South Brazil, several municipalities in Rio Grande do Sul were affected by heavy rains and flood. Here are some pictures showing flood in Rio Grande do Sul. You can see several fields with problems with flood, soybean fields with flood. Also problems with bridges in the state, all over the state. Here's another picture showing the consequence of the flood in Rio Grande do Sul. There's a storage facility, crushing plant, located in Canoas, close to the capital of Porto Alegre, where 100,000 metric tons were lost. Close to 3.67 million bushels of soybeans were lost in this location. Not only beans, corn, rice were lost, but nearly 170 people have lost their lives. Thanks for watching this week's Market Update.
Call us at 800-664-2321 and we'll connect you to an advisor in your area. We'll be back next week for our regular video. Have a great week.